Welcome to today's discussion on the circular economy and waste reduction strategies. As we all know, modern society's consumption of resources is unsustainable, but shifting toward a circular economy offers a more sustainable solution. So today we're going to explore the various industries that are integrating circular economy and rethinking how we design, produce, and consume to reduce waste and extend product life. Very excited to hear from the three of you and your respective industries. And to get started, I'd like to begin with a general question, but by all means, please interrupt each other, chime in anytime there's a question that you'd like to answer as well. So my first question is, what do you think are the biggest obstacles currently to fully integrating circular economy principles into today's economical models? Majed, let's start with you.
Thank you very much, Michelle, for having me today, and good morning to you and the audience as well. So coming back to the questions about the obstacles, actually, I will start with this. In 2021, the UAE cabinet provides the UAE circular economy policy, which encouraging the SDG 12 related to the production and consumption of sustainability. And similarly, done by other governments, similar policies done by other governments in order to support the circular economy concepts. However, when we come to the real, the challenges come of implementation of that circular economy. And the reason is very simple. The waste management itself, it's an integrated process starting from manufacturer up to the consumption of producers or waste generators. So that in order to find a solution in the circular economy, we need not to focus on only one pillar like investors or governments. It's an engagement by all, up to the individual levels.
So policy is there, investment is there, implementation lacks.
Exactly, and that's what is stated in the policy itself. There is a mandate and rules in each of them up to the level of the policies. For example, there is one model called Extended Producer Responsibility, which is EPR. Actually, this EPR, it's give a responsibility for the manufacturer itself in order to be environmentally sound manner products. They need to redesign or reprocess their manufacturing process in order to assure that these products going to be recycled again and again and again. So this is one of the model that going to be help the reducing the carbon emissions. However, it needs a collaboration by all manufacturers all over the world. So this is part of the challenge that available. Other challenge could be related to the education consumers, to send the message that there is a valuable of this recyclable. It is not a waste. It is a value resources.
And then to incentivize.
Exactly. So it is an incentivized through many initiatives, like through the points or other initiatives. There is another rule also to consider the waste generators. They are part from that responsibility by using pay-as-you-throw model. This model is applied just to keep the waste generators engaged in the responsibility of the emissions coming from the waste generator. So we at Tadweer Group honestly address all these challenges and working closely with the regulators in order to have different programs coming to the target points in order to assure that we are diverting the waste from the landfill according to the waste hierarchy by using 3R models: reduce, reuse, recycling, then go to the recovery and disposal. This is what we are looking and when we are building our initiatives through our strategy.
Thank you. And Harald, for you, someone living in the Netherlands, a place that has very big ambitions when it comes to the circular economy, how do you see the challenges today?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. And I want to start with a personal story, because yesterday was the birthday of my grandfather. And my grandfather was born after the First World War, and he died in Russia fighting. I'm Austrian, and he died there and never came back home. And my mother was born during the Second World War too. So at home, she always explained me the value of any resource you have. At this moment in time, and Austria is now among the top, I think, 10 richest countries in the world too, also a very wealthy nation. But she says in her lifetime, she has seen our attitude and thinking about waste and products shift from one extreme to the other. Now everything or many products are made to not last. They call this obsolescence. And always when I go back home, we're having this conversation and thinking, how was it possible that within one generation in Europe, the whole thinking about how do we take care of the resources we have has changed. And I think you asked about obstacles. I think we had a heated conversation before with Mr. Majed because we all have 3 children, and we said, how can we design for a better future, for a good future for them too and ourselves? And I think the education system in Europe for sure is still lagging behind. If you, and I think in the region, you have a more optimistic and clear vision policy making, then I congratulate you on that. And I think here the policy making is happening and can happen much faster than in, for example, in Europe. But I observe that a lot of the rules and regulations are still supporting an old system, which is made to not keep things in the loop. And you mentioned the different strategies in the circular economy, like reuse and recycle. In short, it's an economy that doesn't produce waste. Now, coming here as a foreigner, I'm obviously very humbled by the development that we have seen here in the last 50, 60 years, and it was also done with a lot of resources. And now, just one example, your construction sector, I think nobody knows at the moment which resources are where. So the involvement and setting up and establishing material passports, which is very central to a circular economy, knowing where your resources are, is something that has to come very fast. So we discussed that we really have to learn from each other. In Holland, the Prime Minister said about 6, 7 years ago, the country has to be fully circular by 2050, meaning it can take care of its resources, the waste is going down to basically zero. And for this, everything has to change. The agriculture industry, we just heard about this, has to change. Construction has to change. Mobility has to change. And we as consumers have to change to always wanting the newest, to moving more to a reuse society. I think that's a bit where we are going to, and I'm very optimistic that together we can deal with these challenges. But it is a massive effort also in Europe at the moment, because we are not looking at this. We are still relying on single use and waste. And I think maybe the most interesting part of our conversation was I try to eliminate the word waste from wherever I go. Because we have allowed something to be waste. In nature, this doesn't exist. It should not exist. But if we allow it not to exist, we need to redesign everything. For companies like yours, that is not a waste management company, but it's a resource management company. The one is recycling and downcycling, and the other one is the business opportunity. It's the upcycling. And for this, we need the best people to come together to make it happen.
Very interesting. It's a perception change that has to happen really across the globe. Dr. Hamid, you're coming from the automotive industry, typically with more linear life cycles. What do you see as the biggest challenges?
Yes, thank you first of all to having me here. I mean, you might say, why is somebody from the automotive industry sitting here? Because I think the biggest reason is that we are a contributing factor. Mobility is a contributing factor globally in terms of, let's say, a linear economy that has been established so far. And we need to change that as well. We understand it, you see it, there's a lot of traffic, not only in Dubai roads, but all over the world as well. Purchasing and producing cars every time at zero with new materials is very costly and is very CO2 intensive, and it doesn't help us in the future that we mine every rare earth material and try to make a car out of that. It will not work. On the other side, what you said, Harald, is also correct. We as a customer or consumer we are convenient-based people. So whatever is very much convenient to us, we'll take it. So we in the automotive industry have to make sure that the cars that we produce now and in the future are convenient for the customers, but at the same time become much more circular. So what does it mean? It means that, and that's the challenge for us, is to make basically the end of the life of the first car the beginning of the life of the second car.
And how do you do this?
And you do it, first of all, with recycling. So right now, currently, depending on the model, depending on the brand, 30 to 50% of the car can be recycled. So how to get it to 100%? You need to think circular. And if you need to think circular, you have to start by designing the cars differently than they are right now. And that's the challenge. So I give you one example. Materials right now in the cars, if you want to recycle materials, you need to separate them. You need to separate them in the elements that you can recycle them, the elements. You cannot do it with cars. If you paint a car, the car is painted in a specific color, so you cannot use that material again. Seats are made out of different materials. So you have to change the design of the car by using monochromic materials. So it means that we as a customer will see cars designed in a different way that we are used to now, which leads to a different consumer habit. So we have to be ready for that, and we as an automotive manufacturers, we are working towards that, to a goal that we can make a car, and this is our vision, 100% recyclable.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
I have a question for you. How far are we away from a circular car in terms of years? Because it's maybe interesting for the audience, and I hope the numbers are right. I was told by a representative from the automotive industry that in one car you have between 1,000 and 5,000 different types of materials, which is obviously a nightmare if you want to bring them back into the loop, and you could reduce them to 10 to 50, ideally. So why have we come so far to make so many different materials? How far are we to going into a circular car? And I think it's so interesting because AI, and we have been discussing it in the circular economy too, I think AI in the last year has come up with 2 million new materials that could be more sustainable than the ones we're using now. Maybe you can enlighten us a little bit on how far we are on the journey.
Maybe not the question of why it's been done with so many materials, but really when can we expect to see this model that you speak of?
Very interesting. So first of all, the car industry is what, 100 years old, 120 years old? So for 100, 120 years, we have been building cars very linear. So changing that overnight to circular is not possible. Now you're asking for a timeline. I think, and we gave ourselves the goal also by, I think, 2050, to get to a point where we have 100% recyclable car. However, it means a complete change in your mindset, especially in supply chain, in production, but starting from designing a car. You're right. Right now we have thousands of materials. You have to reduce them to lesser amount of materials. So I was speaking of monochromic material.
But can this exist in the luxury, in the bespoke world?
Yes. It can, because right now in the car you have a lot of decorative elements. Now the question is, in the future, what is the definition of luxury? It's also to drive a sustainable vehicle. That will and is a part of luxury. It's not only to have the most powerful engine or the car with the best design. It's how sustainable your car is a form of luxury definition right now, and it will be much more in the future. Hence, for luxury manufacturers like BMW, it is very important to introduce those kind of elements into the car business. So less decorative elements, monochromic material. You know that most manufacturers are phasing out leather into vegan leather. So maybe cars without paint. will be something that will come into the future. And we, as a consumer now, have to be ready for that, because the demand will change. And if you want to be in a circular environment, I think first and foremost, the consumer needs to also change the mindset.
Does the demand have to change first, or is it the company that has to drive that?
So the companies have a clear roadmap. We are going into this direction, and I think most or the majority of the consumers are going in the same way.
Majed, would you like to add?
Just allow me to add one point. Actually, this is one of the best and practical examples related to the EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility, when I highlighted the manufacturer themselves, if they change their design and models and looking for the materials, how to be reused and recycled again and again, then our circular economy can be achieved. So thanks for the practical example. If all manufacturers thought in a similar way, we can reach to the circular economy subject.
Thank you. And Hamid, this answers your question. Why you're on this panel, the automotive. We needed those exact examples.
Yes, happy to provide more.
Kidding, of course. I would like to expand a little more about waste as a resource. So, Majed, if you can talk a little more about Tadweer, pioneering in the space, and what strategies are you working on?
Yeah, sure. Tadweer Group firmly believes that waste is not a waste, aligning with our colleague Harald. We believe it is an underutilized waste, underutilized resource. Coming back to the same point, waste has a different streams, different type of the waste. So if we look for each stream, there might be potential of that waste to be a resources. For example, going to the combustible waste materials or organic materials, this can be converted to the energy, different type of energies. Even the recyclable itself could be converted to the new products. So this is the way that Tadweer Group is looking for. We need to looking at the waste as a resource, and we are working very closely with the regulators, EAD, Environmental Agency, and the stakeholders in order to build and develop an executive plan of Abu Dhabi, and it has already been built, targeted to reach by 2041 zero waste, which means we are implementing the circular economy policy as highlighted in the policy and coming to the ground stage. The Tadweer Group role is to contribute in that policy, and also it is an operating arm in order to build the infrastructure required for that facility. I will give you an example. Currently, Tadweer Group is working in one of the largest scope of material recovery facility. One of the challenges that we are facing through the different type of streams is an MSW waste, which is mixed municipal solid waste. That waste is available all the world, but Tadweer is looking for to extract that value through this scope, material recovery facility, by receiving that type of waste and extracting the value of it, for example, plastic, pure plastic, or wood, or cardboard, or ferrous, or non-ferrous. And the outcomes of this facility will be the feedstock for the recovery. And if we go back to the waste hierarchy, it is aligned with what you are saying, the 3 R's, then recovery. So actually we are targeting to reduce, then reuse, then recycle by using the material recovery facility, and then go to the recovery through waste to energy projects. This is what Tadweer is looking for, to be aligned with the circular economy concept, to be aligned with, and to meet the SDG 12, Sustainable Development Goals 12, and also to achieve or meet the target of 2041 by zero waste.
You're talking about the triple R concept, and Harald, you've really worked on policy on the global stage, and every country is at a different pace, at a different stage of embracing the circular economy. Who would you say is leading the way? Although you said that everyone has a long way to go, but who do you think other countries can learn from? And if you can give specific examples.
Yeah, I say this was for a particular reason, because I was part of the climate change team here that happened at COP28, also in Dubai, with a very interesting stewardship from the region. And I think there is such a divisive angle also for this very big topic. Now, the fact is that here in the region, the per capita production of waste is nearly double to what we are doing, for example, in Europe. but it's below what is being done in the US, you know, and so there's a different, I think, different statistics and different history, so I think important to know. I think in Europe, and that's why I moved to the Netherlands, a country that is very poor in resources, in new resources, but they're a very interesting trading center. They have one of the biggest ports in the world with Rotterdam. They are known for their digital innovation. They are known for their collaboration because they had to build big dams against the water. So that's what the culture is, and there they're experimenting with how can a society look like. And I want that you all listen to this. Reducing means we are asking everybody to consume differently. Let's be careful. And maybe also less. Because our personal footprint is reaching levels where the pollution on the planet is becoming so high that it's hurting ourselves. So not many people want to be told what they are doing, so it will be a fine line in saying, as a society, do we always need more? Does it make for more happiness? You know, the Chinese talking about a society that is balanced. They don't call it circular economy, they call it a thriving society.
But for behavior change, you need incentives. Have they implemented pay-as-you-throw? Have they implemented other strategies?
I mean, I don't need an incentive to change. If I want to change, I change myself into a new consumption behavior. I can buy a suit second-hand. I can not use a car. I don't have a car since 15 years. That's my personal choice. That's one. On the other hand, I think governments play a very important role on sketching the vision on where the journey should go, including financial rewards. And the government could say to the automotive sector, you wanted us to be a bit touchy in our conversation, they could say to the automotive industry, no, we want you to be a zero-waste industry by 2035. And I think as humans, we have always shown that if we are set a target, you can do it before 2050. Because that if the regulation would say that, I think that is an important part on what policymakers want. So I think there is a mix that we have to do and change our own consumer behavior. This could be incentivized also financially, obviously. The discussion about the carbon tax and others can incentivize change in industry. But it's truly where is the government taking their agency from? It's again from the people. And so it's this emerging consensus on the world that says we need to think about this differently. We have seen an amazing development in the last 50 years. Now we need to steward our resources differently. Policy measures, taxes, incentives all help. I'll give you one concrete example so everybody knows. If the Club of Rome is a think tank that thinks about the future of the planet a lot. And the president once told me over coffee, you know, as long as new resources are cheaper than reused or pre-loved or secondary resources, we will not make a change. In Sweden, they do not put a tax or a smaller tax on reused products. Obviously, when you have that incentive, you're also incentivized to act in that way. But I want to tell everybody it's one incentive of many. I don't have a car. I give you a very stupid example, or one that is maybe more challenging to understand in different contexts. The public transport is good in Holland, and it's not as good as a car. So when I go with my kids to a soccer match, I have the choice to go with a car for 1 hour, or I pay public transport for 3 hours. So it's a redefinition of time and quality of life we have to take into consideration, and this looks differently in every country, and a good public transport is always a good idea to my mind.
But Netherlands also has a very strong cycling culture and weather that permits it, which you have to remember as well.
Yeah, which is maybe not appropriate here, but I think, again, learning from it, what can we use in terms of alternative what can we do in terms of changing mobility big scale? That's the big question. Obviously, EVs are one part of it, but for nature, every car that is not produced is the best solution. We also know that. So together we have to find a solution for this, and I think in the mobility, definitely a strong public transport is a very big backbone of the future we need to see.
Well, I'm interested to hear, of course, now Dr. Hamid's take on this, because every car not produced, well, that will be quite the challenge for the industry itself, and you'd have to recreate yourself.
So it's also a very utopic way of seeing things. So the view is different people in different countries have different needs. So you have different circumstances. Mobility is a way for a lot of people also to increase their social economic status, to go to work, to come back, to commute, and so on. So it's part of life. You need to make sure, and I agree, that how can you provide mobility at a very sustainable way that includes less CO2 emissions, that includes circularity, that includes also alternative ways to commute, public transportation. But let's face it, wherever you don't have public transportation means, you are forced, let's say forced for mobility. Now, I cannot speak for the automotive sector completely, but for us, we are a provider of premium individual mobility. That's where we are. And in our segment, we're trying to be the most sustainable one. We're trying to be the most forward-looking one in terms of circular environment, that whoever uses the vehicles that we are producing, at least is not contributing to that extent that it has been contributing negatively in the past. So that's the reason why we endeavor it. So at BMW, the first internal officer or representative for sustainability we had in the 70s. So it's not something that we are thinking of it right now. It was done quite long time ago. And this is where it ends up. So,
and very ambitious targets for EVs as well.
Yes, also on the EV side, exactly. So, but one comment also what Harald said is very important. Coming back is convenience to the customer. Right now, why is it that recycling is more expensive? Why is it that new materials are cheaper? It's because, as I mentioned, recycling a product right now that is designed for a linear economy is much more expensive because you have many materials blend together, and unblending them or taking them apart costs a lot of money. And hence, recycled parts or recycled materials is more expensive. So unless we don't, again, start by designing certain elements, and I'm not talking about cars, I mean, mobility is also air transport, sea transport, land transport. All of the elements with a different mindset, it will be very, very challenging in the future to come to a very true circular environment.
Indeed.
So if you allow me just to add to that point, I like your example, by the way. So how this reflect to our strategy, how we can build our strategy. If we take an example of end-life vehicles, in our waste stream, when we do our strategy, one of the stream is related to the end-life vehicle waste streams. So when we have a manufacturers like these thoughts, imagine how much easier it will be in order to have an infrastructure and complete the circular economy. Similar concept we are doing for other streams, coming to the wood stream, coming to the plastic streams. So this is a good example when the manufacturer engagement and investors come to the level of mind being environmental sound manner in their production. For us to build that strategy will be very easy to achieve the target.
And if you can,
thanks for your example.
And if you can then expand also on waste to energy.
Exactly. I mean, let me share with you this fact. And in general, waste to energy, it just has defined as convert the combustible waste materials or biomaterials to have an energy. But I will share with you this fact with the audience. Before that, investors come in to do the invest in the waste sector, which is related to the energy. They need to look for. They are looking for the quality of the waste, whether it is viable to invest or not, before going to the financial or looking for the profitability. The good thing is the quality of waste generated in Abu Dhabi and UAE general has a good quality. In order to be invest in the energy recovery waste, and the reason is the assessment of quality of waste usually is based on 3 pillars, based on the calorific value, and the ash content and the moisture as well. The calorific value that available in the mixed waste in UAE, whether from green waste or from MSW, has a good above than threshold, so that investors can come in and do the investment. That's why the projects usually in energy recovery projects usually here are bankability because of the quality of that waste. One of the examples that we have in relation to this subject is very recently we announced about waste to energy project, and that we used a state-of-art technology, moving grid technology, which have high efficiency in order to produce electricity. The scope of the project is to receive the MSW and convert to the electricity which can produce above 80 megawatt. And the receive of quantity of feedstock is about 900,000 tons per annum. So this can show you how much efficient of that technology that we produced in Abu Dhabi. It's under execution stage, and hopefully within 3 years, inshallah, will be on the ground. Another technology also relating to the energy conversion is converting waste to sustainable aviation fuel. In collaboration with Masdar and other stakeholders. And we have different initiatives related to the energy recovery. So come back to the same point. As long as our quality of waste is viable to invest, we will have more attractive to the investor to come in.
And are you seeing this? Because it always comes back to cost, and it's all related back to cost. So you're saying in the UAE the quality is very high, the quality of waste. Are you seeing investors from around the world more prone to investing here in the UAE?
Yes, it is on the ground as well. Now we have one of the projects under feasible study stage for waste to SAF in order to align, but we have waste to energy where it is already in the execution stage. We have another example in the same Emirates. In the other Emirates, like Dubai, have one of the largest waste to energy currently, Sharjah as well. So this will show you that the quality of waste generated in UAE in general is viable to invest. There are also another potential we are looking for: waste to hydrogen, waste to SAF. All these conversion is depend on the quality of waste, but the difference is about the technology, whether through combustion or gasification process or other types of process. So this type of alternative solution energy that we are looking for in order to avoid sending the waste to the landfill.
Harald, what's the global perspective on this?
Yeah, I was thinking to make this very practical. I request again, not waste to resource. It should be resource to resource.
Sure.
I think I'm insisting on this because I think that's the mindset shift that we have to always see. You as a businessman and also at home, waste is waste. You don't touch it anymore. You try to dispose of it. It is truly, I think, a very, very important point. I thought about 5 things if I would like to work with the region, engage now based on what you said. The first thing is I always would promote that this wonderful region and country can be a promoter, like a sandbox, an accelerator for the circularity in 5 ways. One is, I think we could test here very fast which policy changes have the quickest effect to drive industries to be more circular. Doesn't exist. I invite your Dubai and whoever is in the room, if you want to collaborate on this, let me know. I think that's a very important point. Quick, decisive, clear policy making. How can it open up the industry to be more circular, to look at this? I think that's, we don't have the facts and figures for that. 2, waste to resource. Waste to energy is a good idea, and you said it's coming online in 3 years. You need to strengthen your backbone and the infrastructure on resource to resource, so things are not going down, but they're staying at the highest value for the longest time. 3, circular design. I think there needs to be a big push, especially when we see this country diversifying for a longer time already from the oil and gas sector into, you know, tech and tourism and leisure and different sectors. Build circular design principles from the beginning into anything you're building. I think there's a long way to go. On the construction side, get your facts and figures straight with material passports. And the last one, where I'm a host of in Amsterdam and Holland, we're having a startup program in different sectors, but now we also see after 3 years, the startups alone cannot change an industry. Also talking to the big guys in the industry, they also say we can't turn something circular by ourselves. So now we're inviting not only a startup into the program, we're inviting the founder to come with the whole supply and value chain. So imagine a catering company There was a CEO of a catering company who applied to our accelerator, and then we said, don't come alone, bring the food producer, bring the packaging producer, bring your client and your financier, and then together we see how we can make this circular. Because again, it's all about the collaboration.
So it's really going to the whole ecosystem, which I have to say is very rare for an accelerator to bring the whole ecosystem in. Dr. Hamid, we're talking about, you mentioned mobility, but at the same time, it's not just mobility. You're a luxury manufacturer, and it has to do with status. So looking again at the mind shift and the demand, how do you create that?
By creating very beautiful cars, I mean, first and foremost, and embedding all elements of sustainability into the car. So what do I mean with this? Again, for 100 or 120 years, we know how a certain car looks like. We know the definition of luxury. We know what consumers want. But I have to say, for the next 5 to 10 years, or actually it already started, this has changed dramatically. With the newer generation of consumers coming into the market, there is maybe a higher demand in metropolitan areas for public transportation. That's correct. Maybe there is even we saw after Corona, actually there is a higher demand for individual mobility as well. So there's not one trend and there's no one mind that you can cater to. But our task is, again, to make sure that within the luxury environment that we are in, and again, the definition of luxury is changing. Mm-hmm. It's not only, again, about, let's say, transactional elements of a vehicle. It's about, we're getting asked, you know, is the car sustainable? How about your electric vehicle offering? I mean, right now, at BMW, we offer every model in an ICE variant, so a combustion engine, but also fully electric. And in future, hydrogen. So that's also part of our role. So by staying on let's say, on the edge of the technology in terms of sustainable drivetrains, we are one of the first ones doing that. But at the end, I think the customers will show us if our strategy is correct or not correct, because at the end, we are an organization that needs to make profits. And if you are not going by what the customers are demanding in the future, then we have a problem. So hence, now these kind of trends we need to pick up. So it's inherent with every manufacturer to or any company to be sustainable, to be circular, and to still have this luxury elements into a car. And again, the definition will change. You have all the cars with a lot of decorative elements. Mm-hmm. That might vanish away. Simplicity. Cars might look very sleek in the future. Cars might not have any door handles, because it's just waste. Why don't you integrate it in the panels or in the doors itself, the handles? So you were speaking of the 3 R's. So first of all, the first element is to reduce things. Mm-hmm. So things that are not necessarily, things are decorative, things do not fit any purpose besides just being visibly there, needs to get out. So the customers will see and will understand in the future that maybe luxury vehicles will look different to how luxury vehicles look right now.
But as you mentioned, the companies themselves have to be profitable. So is there enough incentive for the automotive industry to make that shift and at the pace that we need to meet global targets?
I think beyond incentives, again, there's an internal, intrinsic motivation to do that. I mean, material costs are increasing. At the same time, supply chains are being disturbed in the past. So we need to find ways that we can use secondary material. We need to find ways that we can, as much as possibly, locally source and not fly goods around the world in order to make them just in time. So this is, I think, already incentives for us. But again, regulations help. Regulations give a direction. They need to be achievable. But if there is a direction and it's achievable, obviously the industry will follow.
Majed, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, Michal, if you allow me, I would like to share with you which is aligned with our colleagues about the customers and the new generation. There is a study issued by ISWA, Integrated Solid Waste Management, 10 years back, and it has been highlighted that through awareness and education, the landfill diversion, or when I say landfill diversion, it's aligned with the circular economy. It has been improved by around 20% within like 10 to 15 years. But honestly, the new generation currently, what we are looking for, from my experience, practically when we do the awareness program with the schools, with the universities, with the others, something has been changed, because it is initiated by the education from the school level. They come up with the ideas that we are integrating our business based on their ideas. I will give you an example. One of the initiatives come by primary school to collect, for example, some plastic waste and come up to convert it to the handicap chairs and give it for charity. I mean, it comes by the school and child themselves. So I believe the new generation, they are growing fast to be engaged with the circular economy. Their belief has been changed compared to the previous, and align with the policies and regulations in order to reach the target. That's what I believe from what I see on the ground, honestly, Sarah.
Interesting. Would you agree, Harald?
Yeah,
The
education
demand is coming from the newer
one.
generations.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to see, in the Museum of the Future, you should have a circular economy room. I was there last year, but didn't see one. How does this look like? Because when we say reduce, reuse, recycle, it sounds a bit scary or maybe strange. But we can still make cars, You can produce amazing food. You can design things. It's just a fundamental shift for looking at materials and its value differently. And I wanted to mention an example to all of you, what is circularity also, as I learned about this recently. Imagine being in Geneva, in Switzerland, in 1925. So that's now 99 years ago. There, in a back room of a house, the main producers of light bulbs, so the light that is, where the light is coming from, light bulbs, met all in one house in Geneva. And at that point, they wanted to increase their profit together, called collusion. And they agreed the best way of increasing their profit is to sell more light bulbs. So they agreed that the average time of a light bulb, I think, was 2,000 hours. And they said, okay, as of now, we only produce light bulbs that last 1,000 hours.
But
so
you see this across industries.
Yeah, I don't want to say that this is a collusion is happening in industries. I know about that story because that is very relevant to where our thinking and the thinking of industry comes from. Produce more, then you can sell more. Now, in circularity, and there are now clients, I think, all over the place, and it started in Amsterdam airport, actually, when a businessman came, and it was also Philips, I think, that was involved, and said, you as airport, you don't want to buy light bulbs. It's not your interest. You want to buy light. And that's what they call the whole economy as a service. I want to buy light. I want to buy that I can wear something, I want to have access to mobility. I don't necessarily need to own a car. This is the big shift that has to happen. And I think with this extended producer responsibility, it's going to be a big driver against obsolescence into much more qualitative and long-lasting products.
Again, a mind shift. Wonderful. With about 7.5 minutes left, maybe we can touch upon Majed Tadweer's Waste to Zero initiatives, and then have closing remarks for each of us.
Sure. I will start with this fact. If I refer back to our World Data platform, they have announced that currently, or in 2023, the anthropogenic greenhouse gases has been polluted around 38 billion tons of CO2 equivalent. This is in all sectors, electricity, waste, and aviation, and others. The waste sector itself contributed by around 4.3%, which is around 1.65 billion tons of CO2 equivalent. The regulator from Abu Dhabi itself shows the contribution of emissions from the waste sector, which is around 5,000 gigagram of CO2 equivalents, which is around 5%. This will show you how much is important to work in the waste sector and worldwide and working together in order to reduce that emissions. Our leaders usually believe and stated that protection of environment and the resources is our all responsibilities. It's not become to one sector to others. Even in line to this, our President, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, in 2022, he announced about additional $50 billion in order to take a climate action for finding a green solution energy. So this will show you the prioritization in order to collaborate together worldwide and reach to that initiative. Referring to the initiative of Waste to Zero, it is one of the initiatives that has been announced in COP28 and led by Minister of Climate Change of UAE and Tadweer Group with the international industrial leaders and looking to have a commitment and working together through workshops, through projects, through international projects in developing countries and others in order to ensure that minimizing the waste sector and come up to our target. Hopefully, inshallah, by COP28, more update will be shared about that initiatives, about the data, how much collaboration we come in. But while we are speaking, there are some partners coming in our coalition, and it is increasing time by time.
And cooperation, of course, is key. Harald, your thoughts. First of all, what would you like the audience to take with them today? Final thoughts as we're nearing the end of our session, but also if you can quickly reflect on the Waste to Zero initiative.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic initiative. You know, waste, as we said before, waste should be designed out. So we already discussed before on how we can help each other in that path, because it's a learning journey, and always from all stakeholders, it's so stuck in my mind. The sentence comes back, we cannot do it alone. It's so important because the current economy is not collaborative. I want to say it's not. It's competitive, and in a way we have to find ways to collaborate. I ran a project with the biggest textile companies in the world, so the retailers that you all know, and when you talk to them individually, they say that you can't. To put them in the same room is the real challenge, but when you do it confidentially, they all report that they have the same root problems. So then together you can start to sketch alternatives and solutions. So my two messages. The first one is, I was joking with Majed, I want to put him out of a job. I don't want that he's a waste manager anymore. And I would love that you come back with a much better proposal for your government and your management or your owners, which is that you become a resource steward of this region, where from a new positive vision, we look at materials from this high value perspective. I truly think it's possible. Building waste-to-energy plants, I see in my own country, creates a structural problem because you always need to keep the incinerator on. So you always want a high waste production. That's why I was joking, I want to put you out of business. Let's look at keeping resources at a good value. And I hope that we can collaborate on that.
Not out of business, in a different business.
First, yeah, we're going to change your business.
Change the business.
You want to say something?
Yeah, exactly. We are aligned in the same word, because actually, usually when we are looking for the solution, we're supposed to come up with a reduction first, with the recycling first, with the reuse. That's what you are lighting, and that's what we are trying to reach. However, the feedstock that going to the waste to energy, it is a residual from MRF. So, in fact, that's what we are. That is all our objective. Let's go with the recycling whenever is possible. If there is no more solution and we have more combustible waste, let's recover the waste. So that's the way that strategically we reduce the emissions coming from waste.
So just looking at the bigger picture, and if we can hear also from Dr. Hamid, what will it take to make the circular economy a reality?
at the end, it lies with the customer or the consumer. I always come back to that. We as consumer need to understand that we have only one planet, that nothing can be as linear as it was in the past. Things are circular. Products will change. If we are in a true circular environment, the products that we know and consume right now will not be in the same shape, form, and form as it is right now. We need to change our habits. The supply side will also steer towards changing our habits. And my only way is that circular economy is coming, and we need to be ready for that. Will it be inconvenient for some? Yes, maybe some choices will go away. Reduce elements, as I mentioned. We are going to have much more elements that have been used in different elements back again. And obviously, the part of recycle also will be, or the share of recycling parts and elements will increase. So all of this will lead to different consumer habits. All of this will lead to different products that we don't know how it will look in the future. But at the end, this is where it will go.
Harald, final thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to make an invitation to everybody, because for me, why I work on this, because it's a positive message about the future. And we have done this now with dozens of cities and many companies, and also governments. I invite all of you to come on this journey. It's possible to create a circular future. If you don't know about the next step, just message me. I will try to help you in whatever way I can. But it is a way of, I think, to bring out the best of what as humankind we have. It's innovation capacity, to think differently and come together to create that, a green economy of a future which is circular. I think that's really a very powerful thing that gets me out of bed every single day, and I'm really excited about it.
Majed, final thoughts, maybe the UAE perspective.
I will come back to the vision of Tadweer Group, to the vision also and align with UAE government. As highlighted by our colleague Harald, we believe waste is not a waste. We believe it is a resource, and in order to become to that level and being a resource, it is an engagement and responsibility by all stages, businesses, individuals, manufacturers, up to the end of consumers. This is our vision, this is our thought, and hopefully with collaboration with the international stakeholders and businesses and investors, we'll come up and reach that level, inshallah.
Thank you very much. Well, on that note, I'd like to thank our panelists and our audience for joining us today. And well, this discussion makes it very clear that moving to a circular economy is essential for a sustainable future. So thank you so much for your insight today. Thank you.